Tomorrow they told me, you need to tell your stepsisters that they need to respect you. And I said, no, 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 no. Not happening. This happened before, 10 years, 20, how many years ago? I'm not doing this. And they're like, no, they won't listen to us. We will back you up. And then tomorrow we will also go with you to put a down payment on a car because we convinced you to give your car to your ex-boyfriend. Wow. And so what happened the next day is I woke up. I did not want to do this. I did not feel comfortable. And I did it anyways because they commanded me to. And this is where I'm saying I'm paying rent to sleep on their couch. And I said to my stepsisters, look, I love you. You're not respecting me. I need you to respect me. And off they went to school. My father took them, and on the way back, he came back and said, what did you say to them? And I'm like, I knew it. I knew it. Never mind. I knew it. And this is what I was saying. I said, Dad, I told you I didn't want to do this. I said exactly what you told me to say to them, you and your wife. And he left and took the dog for a walk and came back. And I heard him go upstairs. And my stepmother yelling and him yelling. And I just hear him go, why didn't you say this the other night? And I knew. And he's like, well, they just declared war on you. And I'm like, what? Seriously? Like, I spent the last how many months saving up my money, yes, to move, but I spent the last months loving them and telling, I won't say her name, my one half sister was getting bullied at school, and I was like, you are amazing, like, just telling her, like, they're hating on you, and I'm here for you, and, like, there's a plan for your life, and, apparently that wasn't enough, and my dad was like, ugh, and I was like, oh my God, I, like, felt my heart drop through my butt crack, sorry, that's rude, I felt my heart drop out of me. And I knew, once again. And the night before, they had told me, tomorrow we're going to go. And first off, they convinced me to give my car away to my ex-boyfriend. And I was like, no, I don't have a good feeling about this. They were like, oh, no, it's going to be great. Like, you can use our car. It's called a glove, and a hand is usually Ross Rosenberg. Ross Rosenberg is amazing at talking about this, is the empath drawn to the narcissist. So for sure at this point, I would like to bring in the psychology of this all, scapegoat. The scapegoat, which is the person that they do something wrong and they know everyone else is against, so they throw it on them. I was the scapegoat. The black sheep. The black sheep is very similar. So the black sheep is the person that, is outside the normal and very similar to the scapegoat. You're the black sheep, so we're just gonna put all this on you. The golden child is the one child that they expect to get all straight A's and all gold medals, which can also, hey, I'd rather be the golden child than the black sheep, but they can at the same time deal with crap. Emotional flashbacks. So still to this day, I have emotional flashbacks. I will talk about that later. Gaslighting. They all gaslit me. My mother gaslit me and said, he's not beating the kids. He's disciplining the kids. My father and my stepmother, he didn't punch you in the face. He open-handed you in the face, which is BS. And then codependent, it was like I was groomed for codependency. I was groomed to search for approval because I didn't get it from the people that raised me. So I'm like in middle school and high school, and I'm reaching and grasping for a man, a boy, to love me and fulfill that, because I'm so desperate. And which created me being an empath. An empath is someone who can walk into a room and they can just sense what is going on in the room. Do you know when, I don't know if you have ever felt it, but have you ever walked into a room and you just sense that something is wrong? Or it's like, whoa. Okay, I can feel the air, something's going on here. Who is mad at who? That's an empath. You're an empath. If you can feel that energy, you are an empath. And then love addiction. I turned into a love addict. From kindergarten all the way through, I remember chasing boys. Like, as a woman, a female, I shouldn't be chasing them. Like sure, let them chase me. But my parents groomed me without realizing it that into a love addict. Which made me crave love from boys. I remember when my first love broke up with me, I craved, I for a week, I stayed out of school and I was at my friend's house on her floor weeping and weeping. Another time, some guy physically assaulted me in a movie theater. And for another week and a half, I was like sobbing and just, I was literally, the love addiction was just like, please love me. Like, I was imitating when I saw, wow. And it's like a glove in a hand. And, you're searching because we never got, if you are an empath, you never got the love that you needed. Something happened and now you are drawn to it. You're searching for it. Excuse me. And usually the narcissist, I'll give you an example, the narcissist knows immediately. And he left and took the dog for a walk and came back. And I heard him go upstairs. And my stepmother yelling and him yelling. And I just hear him go, why didn't you say this the other night? And I knew. Like, I just become very, very spiritual. Even religious, you know. At that point, I was like reading my Bible over and over and over. I was very spiritual at this time, and I hear him go, why didn't you say this last night? And she goes, why do you think? And he comes downstairs, and he puts his head in his hands, and he's like, what did you say to them? And I'm like, exactly what you told me to say. And he just shakes his head again, lifts it up and says, if you stay here this family will not make it. And I'm like, wow. Really? Really? Are you kidding me? You told me to do this. Nope. And like I said at that point, I packed my stuff up because they had told me to give my car away. So I had no car but the car they ripped away my car that I owned and were like, here, you can use ours. Everything's going to be fine. And so, like I said, I ran away to that woman's house, and then I opened LA Fitness at 6 a.m. and eventually everyone knew at LA Fitness, like, no, she got kicked out, and this is what happened. And this one girl invited me. She's like, you're staying at my place. You are staying at my place. And I was like, oh my God, thank God. Because I'm in the middle of Christmas break and I'm ready to go back. But I'm like, how am I ever going to go back to acting class? Like, I'll never finish this. I'm screwed. Wow. And, shoot. And so, suddenly, one night, out of nowhere, my stepmother comes in and she yells in my face and humiliates me in front of everybody and says, you need to give the keys back. And I'm like, ah. And I grab my keys and I'm like undoing when you have to undo the circular motion. And I'm like, here, like, and I literally go, you have my father. What else do you want from me? You stole my dad. What else do you want from me? And a boss of mine, but he was membership boss, a membership counselor boss, storms out. And my friend Sandra, who was front desk, storms out. And literally, I remember he stormed out so hard, he hit the glass against the glass and stormed out that hard. And my friend Sandra kind of like told me what happened, that they went out there and said, what the F are you doing? And my stepmother said, you don't even know. She's so lazy, all she does is lay on the couch all day. And he said, no, I know for a fact that's BS, because all she does is go to school all day, get all A's, and then she comes here and works for minimum wage. So you're full of crap. And then Sandra said she was religious, and she said, you're going to hell. Like, how can you do this? You're going to hell. And then my stepmom said, I'm not going to hell, blah, blah, whatever. And so I was stuck. And then I ended up staying with my friend, who was assistant manager of membership. And I had to kind of like jump from place to place. And I ended up like getting the lead role, but being like, I'm screwed. Like, how can I get the lead role and play it? But like, how can I do this? Like, I do not have a firm foot to stand on. And so that all happened. I got the lead role several times. I got a major role another time, and I literally quit. I was like, I'm done. Because if I take the role, I'm wide open. And it feels like my heart and my whole being is wide open. And so I quit. And I went to an arts major and started painting like naked people and apples and baskets. And got really into God, got really into church, got really into religion because I thought if I just make myself better, I'll be good enough. And so eventually that backfired because no matter, I brought like 50 some people to church every week, twice a week, Wednesdays and Sundays. I always had someone. I would drag people, like I would guilt people, and now I look back and I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And now I look back and I'm like, wow, what did I, like, and as I was there, I started to, because he would preach about hell, he would turn scripture and make it about, like, you're gonna go to hell if you're not perfect. And I'm doing everything I can to be perfect, right? But there's only so much you can do to be perfect on the outside. Like, I can do this. I can invite you. I can be a flower girl. I can water flowers. I can do this, that. And then there's the other part that's like, he would say, because my knees blew out. Why? Because I overworked them. But what did he say? He said he knew the information, and he said, your knees are effed up because of you're not forgiving your family. And so what did I do? I decided to randomly call my mother after not hearing from her, talking to her since 12 years old. I invited my father and stepmother and my grandparents. Well, my mother, I guess that went okay. I invited her. She just kept quiet, kind of, and like didn't say what she really felt. I invite my grandparents and my father, and then I realized that on the entire way there, my grandfather made me sob, literally sob. He told me it was a piece of crap, and he just beat me down the entire way there. And I could not believe, wow, I invited this man to church, and this is what I get, and he is supposed to be a religious man. Are you kidding me? And so at that point, I literally got to the point where I was beating myself in the head and I was slamming myself against the bathroom wall because I hated myself so much. Because the preacher would preach that if you're not perfect, God's going to send you to hell. And I was like, I'm effed. I'm screwed. Well, first I've seen him say, I heard him plead the blood of Jesus, which is supposed to be a prayer in the Christian faith, over his daughter's vaginal area, that no man would touch her. So that's like already clearly inappropriate. And then one time he said to another girl, he's like, where'd you get that booty from all that humping? As she was walking across in the middle of service. And then he said to me, because of my knees, I went for prayer again. And he kept on saying it was the unforgiveness of my family and God is punishing me. And like, and I went to him after church and I sat down and he brought all of his elders, like back into the office, and he literally made me tell him every sin I had ever committed, and he was like writing it down, like humiliating me in front of all these people. And then he even said to me, like, I got up and he called me over to look at the paper where he was writing it all down. And then I walked back over. He said the exact same thing. He said, where'd you get that booty from? All that humping? And I'm like, no, funny. You know, like trying to laugh it off. And I invited a friend, my friend Steven, who I can name. And I felt comfortable telling him what was happening because he just seemed, he was coming into LA Fitness, and I was like, look, after I invited him, look, this is what's happening. And he was going to keep going. And I was like, no, look, I need you. And we planned out how to escape, literally how to escape from this church. And my plan was to leave this church and go out of state because this pastor puts this pastor on a pedestal. And if this pastor says I'm okay, I'm okay. I have to get this guy to say I'm okay and not going to hell. Oh my God. I wrapped up my entire life in a freaking half bow, closed up where I lived, everything, and drove overnight. And we didn't even sleep. We were still awake and listened to his wife preach the next day. And by that time I had pain, physical pain going through my shoulders, my ankles, through my arches, into my toes. I couldn't even walk. That's how bad stress will get you. When you're afraid that God hates you, how do you escape that? That's not a boyfriend. That's God. God can see everything. And I started to beat myself in the face, everything. And that's when I reached out to a couple who was in the choir, and they said, you need to pray about this. And they wouldn't even help me. And I was literally freaking out. I was freaking out. It was so bad. It was the worst spiritual, and I will call it what it is, religious and spiritual abuse. Yes, by Christians. And I did everything. I did everything. And no matter what I did, people, they were so afraid. They were even so afraid to say, God loves you. No. God loves you. This is to use their God-given mind and thoughts to say, no, God loves you. This is BS. I'm so sorry you went. Nobody would do that. And so my feet swelled up. I was icing my feet. I was icing the back of my legs. It was going through the back of my legs. So it was clearly a nerve problem, which is related to anxiety. Severe anxiety creates this up in here, shoots down through your back, down to your feet. My friend Steven drove me inpatient to the crisis center, which was literally half a block away, because we did not get the help we needed from that church, Rob Parsley's church. We did not, no offense for saying a name. I did not get what I needed. Unfortunately, when we first went, his wife had a sermon, and she gave the best sermon, was that we're preaching this hellfire brimstone God, but we're not preaching the God of 3:16, which is the God of love. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him shall be forgiven. And it wasn't like that. And so I ended up going inpatient. They drove me an hour and a half down south, everything. And then I came out of that. And thank God, because my father never would have come to get me. But Steven's father came to get us. And we packed his truck full and we went back to Pennsylvania. And my father, I had called him in the midst of it. And he said, why don't you just come back? Like, we'll help you. We'll take care of you. Yeah. Bull BS. Because I come back and he's like, ugh, why do you expect anything from me? And that's so deeply hurtful. Because I'm watching as he pays $500 for a new drum set for his stepdaughter, and she never even uses it. And there I am begging for a fatherly voice to come in and free me from this. And he would not do it. And he was just happy alone with his new family. And so this is like where it wraps up, honestly. Like, I ended up having to get surgery. Well, I ended up, at that point, there was nowhere for me to stay. And finally, I pressured my dad. I was like, Dad, he's like, what do you want me to do? After he said, if you were just here, I could help you. And then I go back home and he's like, well, what do you expect me to do? And I'm like, you just told me to come back home and you would help me. And so I go back home and I won't do anything. And then I was like, I need MRIs on my knee. We want to invite you into our family to be a part of our family, and we will help you. Not just like a voucher. And I was like, oh. I broke down and was like, thank you. My God, thank you so much. Thank you. And so at first it was amazing, of course. It was scary, but it was amazing. And I felt like, hey, at least there's somebody that loves me, willing to let me be a part of their family. My dad didn't even fight for me. And so I warmed up to them and warmed up to that. And eventually I started to see how my dad's pastor was abusive. His body. And he said, call your mother. Because my mother was married to that Air Force man who was also a lawyer for the government, and they had a ton of money. And at this point, they had moved back to Pennsylvania to his hometown, which was a town over. And I said, oh, no. He said, call your mother. I said, no. There is no way. I said, you call her. Are you kidding me? I haven't talked to her since I was 12. You're nuts. Except for bringing her to church. And he called her. And within 2 minutes, I got a phone call back from him. And his first words to me, and only words, were, if you showed up on your mother's doorstep dead, she wouldn't even give a crap. And I was like, cool. Thanks, Dad. Thank you. Thank you for saying that. I could have done without, if you would have been dead on her doorstep, she wouldn't even care. I could have done without that. But thank you. And I think that's it. Is that it? I think that's it.
I think so.
I think that's it.
Birds of Faith, Brian Sweeney, and yeah, that's
My mom.
Good job.
Okay. And so I had left my pastor's family because I felt like he was so domineering. Oh, he also at one point we played this game. We were playing a game night, and he literally pulled the chair out. It was a rolling chair. It had wheels on it. He pulled it out from under his wife as she started to sit down, and she fell and hit on the floor and hit her tailbone so hard. And like, he was like behind her before she did it and was like, watch this. And we were all like, huh, oh my God, this is gonna be so funny. Like, harmless, we thought. And she fell and hit her tailbone and was, I could tell immediately, oh no. Like, she is hurt, not only physically, but emotionally. And she's like, she said his name, I won't say it, but she was like, really? And I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Like, I felt so horrible for laughing. Like, we just thought it was like a joke. But the more I looked, like, after the fact, I was like, oh, wow. You know, that was like kind of really disrespectful, you know? And after I had left, blah, blah, blah. And I felt like I escaped because I could see him, like I could see what he showed at church when he was preaching. And then I would see the darkness at home. Like, it was my turn to dust the downstairs. And I, like, 1 week, it just, like, I was so busy with school that I, like, blanked. And he came in and just started screaming. And he's like, it's so dusty down here. Like, and you could see everyone, like, his kids, like, ran. And his wife was like, and I was like, okay, I have to, like, take responsibility for this. And I was like, I'm so sorry. It was my turn to dust, and it totally escaped my mind. I apologize. And then another time, I was baking my friend a cake for their birthday. And they had been gone. It was right after Thanksgiving. And I had gotten extremely violently ill. And I had layers upon layers on, like 5 pairs of pants. And I'm not joking. Because he would turn the heat off at night. But now that they were gone, he just, like, it was like very, very cold. He turned it off. And I was shivering. I had my winter jacket on. And I'm like under all these blankets. And he came home. And I remember I had turned it to 70 just to, like, heat up the house for a second. And then I was like, no. I have a feeling he's going to come home and say, why is it at 70? And I was like, turn it back. So I turned it back to 68. And reminder, I grew up in Pennsylvania. This is Pennsylvania. It's snowing out. It's freezing. And I'm vomiting profusely and extremely ill. And he came in and freaked out and once again screamed at his family and was like, who touched the thermostat? And everyone was like, and I was like, okay, I have to take accountability because I can't watch them get in trouble and feel like this. And I was like, I'm so sorry. I was so sick when you guys were gone for Thanksgiving. I apologize. It was me. He's like, and then his wife, like I said, sat us down to, like, hash things out. After she told me he stopped talking to her for 3 years. And she never knew why. And then all of a sudden started talking to her. And she still stayed with him. And so she told me this. And because I was like, my anxiety, the pain in my body is coming back. And so she goes to the living room, sets up this, calls him in, calls me in, after she told me all this information. And I sit down, and first off, well, he started to, like, verbally attack me and was like, you turned the heat up to 70 degrees. And I was like, actually, no, I know I didn't turn it to 70 because I turned it to 70 and it went across my mind, he's gonna be upset. So I turned it back down to 68. And he was like, he had no words for that, because I was like, no, actually, like, no offense, like, I totally respect you, because he kept trying to say, like, he sensed a spirit of ungratefulness, and I'm like, no, I am extremely grateful. I go, and that led into me saying, I'm extremely terrified of you, if you want to know the truth. I'm so scared of you, because he's like, I come home and you're on your computer, and he meant the families, and I was like, I'm sorry, I'm doing my schoolwork because I don't have a ride to school and college, and you guys encouraged me to go back. I don't see it as my computer. I apologize, and sometimes I don't know if you want me to talk to you. And I told him, like, you scare me. And then after I had left, eventually, I had contacted my father, just trying to keep amends going, trying to be, like, good with my dad, and I was like, how is your preacher and his wife and the family? I would love to know, because, they took me in. And he's like, oh, you didn't hear? And I'm like, what? He's like, he was cheating on her, and she left him. And I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? Like, she was the perfect woman. I mean, she was the perfect mom, the perfect wife. She was like the most loving person you could ever meet. And I'm like, I knew. I was like, I knew it. And I looked up and I was like, God, why? Why? Why do I keep on seeing the behind the scenes of these pastors? Why? Like, why me? I don't want to see this. Can I just be a normal believer in God, and, like, that's it? Why all this trouble in my life? Why has it been one thing after another? Like, I'm running through, like, a war and then I'm in PTSD, and then I get to see the abuse when a man of God is, like, pretending to be that, and then he's not. And I felt happy that she had left him, but sad that the family had gone through that. And yeah. Once again, I realized, wow, like, trust your gut. Maybe God is trying to show you something. Because I think I was codependent on preachers, clearly. And I think God was trying to teach me to trust my relationship with God and not rely on a pastor or any other, a preacher, a pastor, a priest, anyone.